Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that. But don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, it's another week of CinemAddicts. This is episode 196. I am joined by Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes. This is, CinemAddicts. Last week, Bruce Purkey said there was going to be a dagger piece of news. Bruce Purkey, what is the dagger? Actually, I'm going to reroute that dagger to Eric Holmes. Here's a surprise. What is the dagger that Bruce Purkey was mentioning or alluding to last week? Eric Holmes, you have the responsibility of making that big announcement on CinemAddicts episode 196. Take it away.
New shirts on the merch store. Woohoo!
New shirts on the merch store. Findyourfilmpodcast.com. Do you want the onus of doing it? Do you want to say it? What's going to happen or what's going on? The direction? Do you want the onus?
You know what?
Bonus onus?
You've been here the longest. I think it should be you.
And there's nothing long about me. If you ever talked to my non-girlfriends, Bruce, do you want the onus of mentioning what the dagger is?
I disagree. Your intros are pretty long. I think it's going on pretty long here.
Okay, let's get back to our features, and we'll just skip that intro. The big intro is back in 2015, Anderson Cowan and I started this CinemAddicts podcast. He's going to be no longer with us. He's going to be with us in spirit because he's going to be popping in now and again whenever he can promote his Loaded for Bear documentary and subsequent film. He's really working hard towards that. It's just a lot of time involved in so many different things with the After Disaster, his other podcast, and the Film Vault, along with just his career being a dad. So it's been coming for a while, at least maybe, I'm thinking if I recall, maybe a year and a half to 2 years, because we ultimately, Eric and Bruce know, we started off as a weekly show, me and Anderson, back in 2015. And actually, Anderson had the idea of starting the podcast CinemAddicts. He came up with the name over dinner in Westwood, California, and he's come up with a lot of the inspiration and the heart and soul of what CinemAddicts is thanks to Anderson Cowan. So just a lot of respect and love to one of my good best friends is Anderson Cowan. I'm sure Eric Holmes, you're very close to him. Bruce, you know him kind of. You're not as close as me and Eric to Anderson, so you're going to be left out of the segment. How do you feel about that, Bruce? Huh?
That's fine. I'll just sit over here in the corner. You can put me in the corner, not baby, but me. Yes, I can put in the corner.
Okay, you'll be in the corner. But no, and to be honest, everything I learn, or if I have any value as a podcaster, a lot of it is due to Anderson Cowan. He helped nurture me as a co-host on CinemAddicts. I learned a lot from him. And you know what? He's the best mentor because he never tried to micromanage me. He just let me go with the flow and let me grow, as opposed to me, who I try to micromanage Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey every single week, and they hate my guts. Bruce Purkey, what have you learned from me as a mentor, as your podcast mentor? Have you learned anything? Huh?
Actually, I mean, honestly, truly I have. But
I'm cutting that out, Bruce.
For the bit.
Thank you. Eric, can you tell the truth? Bruce is such a nice person. Say you haven't learned anything from me as a podcast interviewer or a fellow podcaster. Because Anderson's the North Star. Come on, Eric.
Oh, I've learned a lot from you as far as interviewing goes, because otherwise I'd be like, your movie is like really good and stuff. So that's pretty much all I got. If you ever watch the Chris Farley show, it'd be like that, and still is sometimes.
Stop trying to impersonate my interviews with talent, Eric Holmes. But yes, sir.
I will say I love Anderson, and working with them on groupers, just texting them, being friends with them, doing all sorts of fun stuff. Hanging out, whenever I go out there. I love them, and it'll be good to have them. Since me and Bruce have been on here, we haven't really done many shows with Anderson, but this was his baby. This was his and your thing that you guys started, and then Bruce and I came and ruined it for all the listeners. So we apologize. But
yeah.
But now we got to kick Anderson to the curb, and that's not exactly what this is. But yeah, it sucks. But he'll be back once in a while, hopefully.
Really, the spirit. Yeah, the spirit and direction of CinemAddicts is really pretty much inspired by Anderson, because when he started the show, his idea was just to cover more independent-driven projects that maybe other podcasts, maybe even including the Film Vault. That's not a knock, because they get to cover a lot of the commercially driven films. They reach out to the listeners. They do watch parties. They're a great podcast. But back in 2015, he wanted to cover a lot of the niche films. And I think by hook or by crook, with you, Eric and Bruce, when you came on board to CinemAddicts and Find Your Film as well, you just brought your aesthetic, and we just follow that spirit of Anderson Cowan and just cover indie films, and we continue to do. I'm telling Bruce and Eric every week, I need to cover just Black Adam every week so we can get more listeners, and they stay true to the game. Eric Holmes, you look like you wanted to say something. You have some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is not the best news. I don't like this, but I mean, it is episode 196. That's like 69 backwards, which is the worst number ever. So it's yeah, it's as Brian on the Film Vault says, it's apropos.
I want to look at the bright side of it, is that, because I mean, it is sad because we love Anderson, and I mean, at least myself and Eric, I mean, I know we were fans.
Yeah.
Before we had any like contact knowledge of him, and we were fans of CinemAddicts as well. I mean, and we'll talk a little more about that, but we were definitely like hardcore fans of that, and it's just kind of that fandom slowly built into whatever this is. I guess we're like the lead singer of Judas Priest or Journey, like the ones that came in afterwards because they were fans. They just got to end up singing for the band. No one ever likes them as much, but that's okay. We do our best.
Yeah, we all do our best. And again, hats off to Anderson. Anderson will make one more appearance actually on CinemAddicts via our Patreon. He and I will be discussing tomorrow being Thursday, the 1970 films Bloody Mama and 5 Easy Pieces. So we'll be talking about those two films. Yes. Final thoughts on Anderson. The reason why Anderson's not here is because I made sure he didn't show up at the podcast, and that was seconded by Eric and Bruce. They said they didn't want Anderson anymore. Is that correct, Eric? Or am I lying on this? Why is Anderson not here? Did you know why Anderson's not here?
Dentist thing.
I think he was having a hard time speaking.
It's too personal, Eric. How could you mention
the gimp suit?
What? What do you say, Bruce?
He couldn't speak through the gimp suit. The zipper wasn't working. So.
No gimp suit. Yeah, it wasn't working.
You don't bite down on the ball gag. Everyone knows this.
Yes, and because he did, Anderson, like Eric Holmes said,
back in the box with you, Anderson.
He is recovering as we speak, as we are recording. He is recovering from a trip to the dentist, so he wanted to actually make this his final show here, but because of the dentist. Yes, Eric Holmes.
With the Man Show, they used to have Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel, and that's like you and Anderson. It flourished, everyone loved it, and then eventually Doug Stanhope and Joe Rogan came on, and that's me and Bruce, and we just kind of bring it down by a lot. So we're about to prepare for the CinemAddicts last episode coming shortly. I like that humor, that self-effacing humor, Eric Holmes. But we will continue. CinemAddicts is still alive. A lot of it is thanks to you listeners on our podcast. And again, like I said, I'm going to be recording with Anderson tomorrow for the 1970 podcast. That said, Bruce and Eric are jumping onto the Patreon, and they will start moving forward starting in July. Anderson and I covered the years 1940 to 1980. So for this new chapter in our CinemAddicts Patreon, we will be covering the years 1981 to the year 2020. So again, 1981 to 2020. Every month for our Patreon members, we have one bonus episode. We will randomly generate a year. Which do any of you? I haven't done this random generator in a while. So again, we're covering the years 1981 to 2020. Our current CinemAddicts Patreon members will be treated to a bonus episode with Bruce and Eric Holmes. Bruce, do I have to do the bonus episode with you guys next month too? Can I?
Yes, yes, you do.
Okay, that's
you have to watch both movies.
Okay, so
no one's going to listen to the bonus episode with just Doug Stanhope and Joe Rogan. We need Jimmy Kimmel to join us.
Oh, thank you. I like that reference. So again, 1981 to 2020. We haven't done the randomizer for our Patreon in a while. Let's see what year we land. The year. Bruce, can you please put it down on our Google Notes? Because
I'll write it down.
I'm just horrible when it comes to organization, and Eric's good at organization too because he does all the ratings. The year we are covering for our next chapter on Patreon is the year 1999. So we're going to cover 2 movies from 1999 for our Patreon bonus episode. One of those picks will be a rotating pick. So me, Eric, or Bruce will pick the first movie from 1999. Who wants to? Bruce, either you or Eric is going to pick that movie from 1999. Who wants to take that July? Oh, let's make it Bruce. You shrugged your shoulders.
Well, the weird thing about 1999 is that's such a popular year. How do you find a movie that everyone hasn't already seen like 300 times?
I'll do it. I've got this.
Bruce.
Okay, Bruce Purkey will pick the year 1999. That will be the first movie we review for our bonus Patreon members. And then the second movie that we will review will be, we're going to reach out to our Patreon members. We're going to have a poll, and hopefully some people from our Patreon community will vote for the poll. We'll vote on the poll, and we'll come up with that second movie. So again, 2 movies, the year 1999 for the month of July. That'll be our Patreon. Thank you guys so much for your support. Also, Patreon members pretty much get a lot of stuff from us. I'm starting to yet again do the spoiler stuff. Eric and I were going back and forth about whether it should be walled or public. For a while, we were thinking about public, YouTube, so the Commonwealth can see the spoiler stuff. But I think what we're going to do, for now at least, is for the Patreon members. If you're a member of our Patreon community, you will get the spoilers that Eric and I do for the video talent. It'll be walled in within that Patreon community. For example, there's a movie called Prisoner's Daughter, which I don't know if you saw, Eric, but Bruce Purkey, you and I saw it. We're going to do a little bit of a spoiler at the end of the Cinematics episode, and then we're going to combine that little mini review or spoiler to a Catherine Hardwicke spoiler, the director. She talks about the ending of Prisoner's Daughter, which stars Brian Cox. And who else is in it, Bruce? I'm trying to think right now. Oh, yeah, Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah, I was in Beckinsale, yeah.
So, yeah.
And Ernie Hudson, right?
And Ernie Hudson, right, and Christopher Convery. So a lot of that Catherine Hardwicke video clip with her talking about her feelings about the ending will only be within the walls of our Patreon community. So I am a man. I'm a mean person. I want to wall off content. Eric Holmes, you want to give everything for free, don't you? You're a man of the people. How dare you, Bruce? Are you a man of the people? Are you a Patreon? Do you want all the money?
Hey, look at it this way. I think Eric is still too. We're both Patreon members, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're still Patreon members. We're on the show now, and we're Patreon members. There is nothing that we can't listen to without paying for it, and we're both Patreon members. So look at that.
Thank you guys so much for that. Thank you for being Patreon members. So that is it.
I'm a customer, and what is that? What is that old ad?
Right, I'm a customer and a. Well, I'm not.
Is that the Men's Warehouse or Hair Club for Men or something? One of those things.
A little bit of both. Yeah. So again, 1999 for July, and again, Anderson, he's going to be saying his goodbyes tomorrow on our Patreon feed. So I'll put a link on our show notes. That is that. We love Anderson. Any final thoughts, Eric Holmes, Bruce Purkey on Anderson Cowan, episode 196? Before we get to our features,
I just can't wait to review his movies when they come out. I want to talk to him about his movie. He's got so many irons in the fire. It's exciting, honestly. I'm really happy to see where he's going. So I think, if anything, him not being here is because of great things that's happening for him. So that's the way I want to look at it.
And now that he's not here anymore, we can finally say what we really think of Groupers, which is it's the third greatest movie, just under Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
Did you wait? It's the third greatest.
Oh wait, I've always thought that. Never mind. That changes nothing.
Groupers is the third greatest movie behind Citizen Kane and Barry Lyndon. So that's what do you think, Bruce? Does that work?
We'll leave that. We'll leave that for Anderson to assess.
I'm just so glad that we're not going to have Anderson anymore, not even for once a month, because to be honest, I'm a little bit sick and tired of covering all these Steven Spielberg films. He's such a fan. He is such. Okay, Anderson, I'll watch Amistad again. All right.
Actually, I don't think I ever seen Amistad.
Oh, well, Anderson has. He's also seen Bridge of Spies. He has a collector.
I saw Bridge of Spies. Well,
Bridge of Spies, yeah.
I tried very hard to stay awake through Bridge of Spies.
Oh, how dare you. Don't say that. And again, we love you, Anderson.
And the Post. God, people like the Post. And look, if you like the Post, good on you. But I
love the Post. I love the Post. I love Emily Post. We love Anderson Cowan.
I don't get it.
Anderson, we can talk about you for the rest of the episode, but we want to keep our Cinematics listeners. And here's the thing. If you are part of one more thing about Patreon, if you support our Patreon, this is the great news. Anderson will still be Daniel Plain viewing our Patreon revenue. He still gets a cut from our monthly expenditures, so he's still part of
$3 of it.
All $3 of it. He still gets a cut. So if you're supporting us, you're also supporting Anderson. And here's the news: Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes, they had a little powwow. They said, "Hey, Greg, let's build up our Patreon members to about 1,000, 2,000, and then half of it will go to Greg Srizvasi, that being me, and the other half goes to Anderson." Bruce and Eric, thank you so much for that. That's really wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so Bruce, you didn't say you're welcome. Did you? No comment there?
I did. You just didn't hear it in your mind.
Okay, now let's get to our featured reviews. Enough of me. Enough of Bruce. Let's just start off with the banger of the week. I'm going to say banger of the week because Bruce and I sloughed. I mean, we actually handed off this movie to Eric Holmes. We were saying, Eric Holmes, he's like Mikey from those Life with Checks commercials. He's going to love it. Confidential Informant. It stars Nick Stahl. I think it stars Mel Gibson. It's a cop movie. It's about informants and they're confidential. Nick Stahl, there's no Terminator here. I wanted to see it. I didn't get around to seeing it. Eric Holmes, you're holding that mantle for Confidential Informant. What can you tell our CinemAddicts listeners whether they should watch this movie, which comes out in theaters on June 30th, but then it's available as we speak on digital and on demand? What is this movie about?
Certain big, aren't we?
Is that sarcasm or just profanity? What?
So, first of all, I don't know if this is the way the movie's released or if this is a screener I got, but the sound was very bad in this. Did a Michael Jai White movie a couple weeks ago. For the most part, it was all right, but like the sound was like really bad. The sound's worse in this, and I don't know if that's the screener link I got or if that's what you'll get if you rent it, to where like the music's on the right channel and the dialogue's on the left channel, like just like completely separated. So that was weird, but the story is actually not bad. It's a cop finds out he's got AIDS and he's going to die shortly. Like
Cancer or AIDS? I have IMDb cancer.
They kind of say both.
Oh, cool.
I think,
mean, not cool for that, but I mean,
yeah. I think it's AIDS, but because it's, I believe it's a period piece. I can't remember what year it's set in, but anyway, he's got some sort of disease and he's not going to live long. So he sets up him and his partner, Nick Stahl. Dominic Purcell, I believe, is the one with AIDS, and his partner, Nick Stahl, set up this thing that they're going to set up this thing with his drug dealer and get the drug dealer to shoot Dominic Purcell and kill him. So his family gets insurance money from being on dying on the job, pretty much. That happens about halfway through the movie, and then you get to watch the fallout from that. So the setup and the story is really good. Believe the writing credits is Michael Kachek, Brooke Nasser, and Michael Oblowitz, who is also the director. I'm not sure, but given I'm guessing Michael Kachek was the main writer on this. Probably rewrites from Brooke Nasser and Michael Oblowitz. Maybe not. This reminded me a lot of Hard Kill.
Yeah.
So we saw Hard Kill, and I remember not liking it a whole lot, but we talked to Joe Russo, and we had Joe Russo on the show, not the MCU Joe Russo, but the cool Joe Russo from Postmortem with Mick Garris. And he actually sent me the script it was called Open Source, which became Hard Kill. And so, because I'm watching Hard Kill, I'm like, this just isn't good. What happened here? And then I read it. He sent me a script, the original script, and I read that, and I'm like, why didn't they make this movie? This script is awesome. I wonder, because Confidential Informant has such a cool idea for a story, and some of the stuff, like some of the dialogue and the stuff they're talking about in it is good. It's just not done well. It's not executed very well. Actually, it's executed pretty poorly for the most part. The acting's fine. Story is really cool. This is a movie. If you're going to remake movies, remake this. I don't know what the original script was, but I'm guessing there's something brilliant here. There's a brilliant movie here that would be like on the level of To Catch a Killer. So there's something on that level. This isn't it. This is like, I don't know what happened. I mean, the sound's bad. The action's bad, the editing's bad. The only thing that's really holding this thing together is an interesting story and the acting. Everything else just kind of and it's really frustrating too, because you see something that's like, wow, there was so much what was it? The Snowman from the director.
Great film.
No.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
No. From the director of Let the Right One In,
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy,
Michael Fassbender, J.K. Simmons. It's got the Scorsese's director. Like, it had like so much talent behind it, and the movie's broken. And, it fell apart. And I'm watching The Snowman going, how the hell did this happen? I kind of feel the same way about Confidential Informant. Now, maybe I read the original script and the script is terrible. I don't think so. I think there was something from the time the script was bought to the finished product, something went horribly wrong, and I can't quite put my finger on what it was. But this would absolutely be due for a remake, or just I kind of want to throw money at the screenplay and just go, hey guys, redo. Just do a redo. You know, if I was independently wealthy, I totally would be. But this movie is not good, but there's like so much potential in here. I almost kind of want to point people to watch it just to see if they see what I see in this. Because it, and like, don't, you know, you're going to watch it and you're going to know that it's not great. But this, you know, this would be like a fun experiment, or, you know, an experiment. I don't know if it'd be fun. It'd definitely be an experiment to where, hey, let's watch this bad movie and try to pick out the little gems in this and see if we can figure out what went wrong, or see like what could be done again to kind of elevate it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, we mentioned The Snowman. That's directed by Thomas Alfredson. Again, he was a really good director. And by the way, it's available on Netflix for streaming. So I don't know, Eric, if you would recommend that movie just for people to watch the pieces of the movie that actually work. Because I think we talked about The Snowman. It's an interesting enough movie to watch. It's like you said, it's just broken. Which makes it interesting, I guess, right?
Well, like J.K. Simmons, like his accent changes because I guess he was trying an accent. They decided to go against it. Don't worry, we'll reshoot that stuff, but they never got around to reshooting the things. And then the editor's like, here, throw something together with this. And she's like, oh, geez, what the hell are you trying to do? Like, I think with The Snowman, like as they were making the movie, they just cut all funding of it and just put together what you can with what you have. I don't think that's quite what went on here, but there's something went terribly wrong here. I don't quite know what it is. But again, the idea for the story is really good. Some of the dialogue in it, like, you know, is really snappy and works. And I think I believe the screenwriter used to be an ex-policeman, ex-cop. My thoughts on cops aside, he seems to understand, like the dialogue they have between each other seems to be realistic as far as I know. Yeah, this just needs a redo is all.
Wow, this is very interesting because it's one of these things where, does this apply because you found it to be an interesting watch? What kind of would you give Confidential Informant, Eric Holmes?
Well, it was still watchable, and there were still nuggets of good stuff in this. So I give it 2 stars. This is not a 0-star movie. That's The Snowman. The Snowman's completely broken, and it's just, I'm disappointed because there's so much potential there. And it's kind of sad that this was the movie that ended up because of, you know, as a result of that cool story. Or didn't quite make sense. The movie's about as good as this review, just kind of baffling and broken.
Well, look, you said the ensemble again. It has Mel Gibson, Kate Bosworth, Nick Stahl, Dominic Purcell. I'm sure if you're a fan of Prison Break, you might want to actually invest some time in Confidential Informant just for the actors, which is, I think you said there were good performances in Confidential Informant. Unfortunately, this movie just didn't execute it so well. Maybe if I have time, maybe I will get to Confidential Informant. I think this podcast is recording, Bruce is trying to get back onto this Zoom chat, and we'll see if he gets back on. Until then, Eric Holmes, I'm trying to do some recommendations for CinemAddicts, getting some kind of back and forth with our Facebook group. What can you say about our CinemAddicts Facebook group that works for you, Eric? Why do you love our group so much? What do you think?
I was just mostly getting interesting questions, movie picks, so on and so forth. Who's the one that keeps posting the bits? You click it and you go to the website and it gives you a movie picture, the framed.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Ken Cunningham or Joseph Bridges.
No, it's not Joseph Bridges. I think it might be Ken Cunningham. Jesus,
no worries. Yeah. The frame.
Yeah. Those are always fun. People always come up with like fun like games to play, or like Joseph Bridges recently put up something about why does everyone care about movie box office, or like the finances of movies. Because like we have no stake in it, so why does anyone care? And on top of that, we don't know what we're talking about when, you know, talking about economics like that. And you know, just not just that, but like stuff like that, we're kind of, oh yeah, why do we care about that? It is kind of stupid. Like, you know, people always come up with like fun sort of thought experiments and ideas, and beyond just the what's your top 5 favorite blah 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 movie. Although those are fun too.
Yeah. No, it's a great group, and we have good friends there, and everything that Eric said and more. I also, when I do my weekly giveaways on Blu-ray and DVD, I just hit up the members of the Facebook group community and I said, hey, if you want, you can read the post. There's different ways to enter, but if you're a Facebook group member, I'll just say I'm in and I'll hook you up. I mean, you get an entry. So if you're a physical media fan, you like Blu-rays and DVDs, possible digital codes, hit us up on join our CinemAddicts Facebook group, because I usually just go in and offer up these giveaways to them first before posting the real giveaways on the site. So basically you get early access if you're a member of CinemAddicts, not just to these great reviews and thought experiments that Eric Holmes was talking about, but also for Blu-rays and DVDs. I get a lot of feedback from the members, and you get early access to these giveaways. Now, you also get movie recommendations, Eric, and I will actually go back and forth with you on a couple of our members and their movie recommendations. First of all, Middle Class Film Class host Pete Abeyta says he watched Rango on Paramount Plus, saw it when it first came out and liked it well enough, but I really loved it on second watch. It's a Nickelodeon movie, but plenty of scenes that are pretty intense or dark. That's a recommendation. Rango, would you recommend it too, Eric? A little bounce off on that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but Rango's definitely one of the fun non-Pixar type movies.
Okay, cool. And then there's another one from Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith, by the way, I think recently he saw, what did he see? He saw the John Hamm movie. What was it, John? Hey, Bruce, what's the John Hamm movie again? The Coen Brothers type? What is it? Something Moores or something?
It was Maggie Moores.
Maggie Moore.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Ryan Smith recently, our Facebook group member, he recently saw it and he said, hey, he agreed with your review of it and he liked that movie as well. But Ryan Smith's recommendation was he watched Misery for the first time. It was excellent. I still have not seen this movie. Bruce, would you recommend it? Eric, recommend it?
Yes.
Misery or Maggie Moores?
Oh,
yes
Misery.
to both.
Yes to one.
Yes to one, and that would be Misery. And Alec Vasquez, who's been a part of our group in a while, he says The King of Kong, quote, probably my favorite all-time documentary. King of Kong, is it an all-timer for any of you guys? Bruce, Eric?
I liked it. It wasn't an all-timer for me.
Mm-hmm. Bruce?
Yeah, I like it quite a bit too. I'm kind of the same as Eric, but I love it. Has one of the best documentary villains of all time, I think.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good. Okay. I definitely I've had a screener of it for, I don't know, since it came out. There are so many movies I still haven't seen. Bruce and Eric know I actually really don't watch any of these movies. It's just Bruce and Eric doing it. I'm pantomiming. Yeah, I'm just pretending. Bruce, am I doing good at pretending that I see these movies on CinemAddicts?
You're doing so good. Keep it up.
Okay,
Keep it
thank
up,
you.
Greg.
Thank you. I love that dry wit, Bruce Perky. Finally, Matt Stillman. His 3 recommendations are Last Hurrah for Chivalry, Peking Opera Blues, and Across the Spider-Verse. I've not heard of any of these movies. Are my recently watched recommendations. I will not watch. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Bruce. You are Across the Spider-Verse, all the Spider-Verse movies you love with a passion, correct?
Yeah, they're really, really good for sure.
Okay. So this is just a little bit of a interaction. Tell us if you like any of these movies we mentioned, we recommended, or our Facebook group members recommended. But as far as recommends, let's go to Netflix right now. And there's a movie that comes out this week. It's an animated film. It's called Nimona. Here's the IMDb plotline summary.
Nimona?
Don't say that. Nimona, my fault. Or pneumonia. Nimona, when a knight in a futuristic medieval world is framed for a crime he didn't commit, the only one who can help him prove his innocence is Nimona, not pneumonia, a mischievous teen, a mischievous teen who happens to be a shape-shifting creature he's sworn to destroy. That shape-shifting creature, aka Nimona, is voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz. Riz Ahmed from The Sound of what, Eric? The Sound of? The Sound of Metal. Love that, Eric Holmes. Riz Ahmed, he is the knight, the aforementioned knight who is basically accused of committing a crime of murder, but he's trying to clear his name. So it's basically the friendship, the relationship of Nimona and Ballister Boldheart, the aforementioned knight voiced by Riz Ahmed, and it's their journey into clearing Ballister's name. Nimona is so all-powerful her life's goal is just to be his sidekick, which I'm wondering, how does that work? How does a powerful human being, a powerful quote unquote monster, Nimona hates that word, how does that monster Nimona, who's so powerful, why does she just want to be a sidekick to Ballister Boldheart? Who knows? I'm an all-powerful person, and all these years I've been a sidekick to Anderson Cowan. I don't know. Am I a monster, Bruce? It's Greg Swirzavosty, a monster like Nimona?
Just like Nimona.
Thank you. Dry wit again. Bruce, Nimona, animated film. A lot of snap, crackling, pop dialogue. And I'm thinking, I'm sure Bruce is hating this. He's hating that banter. Bruce, what are you thinking?
I tried really hard to hate this movie. I really did. I was rolling my eyes pretty hard at the beginning of this because it was just that really bright, fast, cell shaded, wisecracking and Nimona, like lots of some pop references thrown in there, all those things that drive me crazy in these kind of movies. And for a good chunk of it, maybe a third of it, I was like, I might really hate this movie. We didn't mention also Nimona wants to be a sidekick, but she really wants him and her to be a villain. They want, let's be the villains of this story. Let's be the villains, which I kind of thought that kind of sparked me a little bit like, okay, that's kind of fun. That's kind of interesting. And also the whole thing that she shapeshifts into different things. And there's an early sequence where she shapeshifts a whole bunch to escape the castle when they're under attack, which is kind of fun. And this slowly won me over. First of all, these kind of movies, if you're not the age group that it's aimed for, can be tedious or really tiresome.
Bruce, what is the age group? What is the age range? Because there's death in this movie. I
would say this is probably like 8 or 9 to 12, something like that. Like older little kids, younger, before they're full teen kind of kids. I think that's kind of what it's aimed for. But I ended up really enjoying this movie. I ended up really liking it quite a bit. I didn't love it, but I started becoming more and more engaged with the story. I started really liking Nimona's character. And as her backstory kind of comes out and as you kind of get the idea of why she is the way she is, I started actually caring for her character and enjoying kind of the journey she was on, even more so than Ballister Boldheart, but
100%.
But he was okay too, and I liked him, and I Riz Ahmed is great, and he gave a lot of character. Both of them actually, him and Grace Moretz, Chloe Grace Moretz, did a lot to bring the characters to life, which of course is their job. Overall, I ended up quite enjoying this, and I think this could be a real hit for that age group. And I think for a Netflix movie of this type, it's pretty strong. I think this is a great companion piece kind of to Seeing Red. It's not the same as Seeing Red, but I think those two they kind of deal with similar themes, I think.
And this is one of these movies that could be divisive depending your leanings, because a lot of the leads, the romantic leads are male. Ballister Boldheart, his best friend is Ambrosius, I love this, Golden Loin, voiced by Eugene Lee Yang, and they are fellow warriors and knights of this, and they're vowed to protect the whole city or the town, the whole world from a quote-unquote monster and whatnot, or evil, essentially. So they're not just colleagues, they're not just best friends, they are potential lovers as well. So that's very cool. I think that's as far as representation goes regarding this movie, I completely agree with you. For the first third, I was thinking, as much as I try to be funny with my quick-witted thing, and I try to be like, and I'm the only one who's laughing at my joke. No, you guys laugh too, because out of kindness. Thank you guys so much. But it got wearying after a while. It got wearying. But then there's a reason why it got wearying, because it knocks you over. It takes you off balance, because then you realize the story. Well, I don't even look. It's not too much of a spoiler. There is a lot of story behind the knight in this movie, but ultimately the story is a coming of age for Nimona. And I thought that little sweep you under the rug surprise was a really great sleight of hand for Nimona. I ended up really loving this movie, and I think the flaws in the beginning were intended for the packed power punches of the acts 2 and 3. That's my personal opinion. I hope more people gravitate to this as you and I do. So.
I think it has a really good score too. I think it has some great pop songs in there, which can be annoying, but I think these ones are really, really good and fit with her character. And also I wanted to mention, you talk about his love interest early on. I think what they did that's really smart is, by him being accused of murder and being kind of an outcast or even a villain for the whole kingdom there, that they're pitted against each other in this movie. So you actually have an interesting relationship between them that you weren't expecting to happen all the way through too. So I like that.
Okay, so Nimona on Netflix, Friday, June 30th. Bruce Purkey, your rating?
I was very surprised that I came down 3.5 on this. I would have definitely expected to be a 2 or something at the beginning, and I came out 3.5, which is, for me, is pretty solid for this. So.
Okay, solid 3.5 star rating for Bruce. And Eric, what do you think I gave Nimona? What is my rating on Nimona, Eric Holmes? Why don't you write it down?
No.
Oh, you don't know?
4 stars.
4 stars. Okay, 4 stars. Yes, that is my rating on Nimona. 4 stars for me. I liked it a tick more than Bruce Purkey, but most importantly, let us know what you think of Nimona if it works for you. And one of these days, Bruce, maybe you and I will see Confidential Informant. It's like one of these things. We don't have time to watch 20 movies a week. I think one of these days, I'm regretting so many movies that I haven't seen. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I might like Confidential Informant. Eric didn't. He gave it 2 stars. We'll see what's up. I don't know, though. Is Confidential Informant or Nimona as good as a movie called Love Gets a Room? Is that a movie about 2 tawdry, erotically charged couple getting a motel room? No, Bruce? Or Eric Holmes? Love Gets a Room. Sounds very pot boilerish. Or maybe not. Bruce Purkey, it's not a pot boiler sexual thriller or exploitation film. Is it something more substantive than that? Love Gets a Room.
It might be.
Could it be set in 1942 Warsaw, Poland?
It could be, yes.
In the Warsaw Ghetto, and the lead is Clara Rugaard, and she plays this really talented woman, Polish woman, who can sing, she can dance, she can act. But the thing is, it's 1942, Poland in Warsaw. There's no Hollywood here. There's no cinema. Okay, this is all a play within the confines of the stress that is life. The opening moments of this Rodrigo Cortés directed film is, I think, a 10 to 12 minute opening one shot, or maybe a trick one shot, where you see Clara Rugaard's character start off with maybe the outdoors of Warsaw as she kind of just works her way through that street into the theater. And much of the rest of the movie takes place in the theater, while Clara and her fellow friends and fellow actors, they're trying to perform a play in front of everyone in the theater, just for a little bit of maybe an hour or two of refuge. You see the play, which was an actual play from the 1940s, and then you actually see the life that goes behind the play as well. And then there's the life outside that, which is obviously death and misery and tragedy. Very multi-layered plot line, and it's not a tawdry film. It's very substantive. Let's start with Bruce Purkey. Your thoughts on Love Gets a Room. I'm sure I missed a lot along the way regarding my synopsis.
Yeah, I love this movie, actually, surprisingly more than I thought I would, and I'd be curious to hear how you two come down on it. Yeah, so the opening definitely is great, because it literally drops you down along the wall between the ghetto and the non-ghetto, but you're going to go on the ghetto side, and you're going to follow Stefsha as she starts and winds her way through various parts of the outside. And one of the things that happens right off the gate, which I think kind of sets the scene for how this movie works, is one of the places she stops along the way is a checkpoint. And the Nazis there are doing this thing where they're like, hey, mate, laugh, we want you to laugh. It's like this cruel little game they're playing. And you get the feeling very quickly, if you don't laugh, that you might be in peril. So Stefsha's standing next to this older woman who she's telling you have to laugh, you have to laugh. And right there, it kind of sets a microcosm of the movie, which is acting can possibly save your life in this situation. So it's really an awesome way to kind of set the scene. And then she, of course, winds back, and you get into the theater and you find out what we're really going to be the main bulk of this movie. Once again, to reiterate what you said, the Love Gets a Room is an actual play that actually was performed a bunch of times in the Warsaw Ghetto. They have in the interview you gave, they have the script of it. They have the lyrics of the songs that were in it. They didn't have the music. So this movie gives you the songs with music that they have written, thinking, doing their best to recreate it. And what this does is very interesting in that you have an outside story, kind of a love triangle. Then they go back and forth between the actual love triangle, and there's big stakes there. And then you see the play happening interspersed with the same characters also in a love triangle. And then you see them perform the play and the songs, but there's also subtext going on each time they perform those songs between them. And then the outside world at one point starts intruding upon the stage. And according to your interview, all the music that you hear in here was not done like on a soundstage. It sounds like it was done as they were performing this. Yeah. So this is an amazing movie and a beautiful movie, and I love it. I love this movie so much. And it's got emotion if you want it. It's got high stakes and points if you want it. It's got some drama. It's got some comedy. It's got musical. And it's got a musical where, and I'll stop talking in a second, but it's got a musical where the songs aren't coming out of nowhere in this kind of fake thing, which is a thing we take with musicals, right? They're going to just start singing.
Yeah, and that's
there's a reason for them to be singing because they're on a stage and they're doing a play. Right. So I love this movie.
I think I've said this. I think Clara Rugaard is a star, or maybe it's the actual. Okay, good. I was going to ask you about that because maybe it's just the movie itself. But yeah, I haven't seen Black Mirror, and I know she's in the new season of Black Mirror. But Clara Rugaard, remember the name. She's wonderful. Is this movie wonderful, Eric Holmes? I'm so glad that you got a chance to see Love Gets Room as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I had to watch it a couple times because I didn't quite get it all the first time, and I'll explain why here in a second. So first of all, this is like a great way to do an adaptation of something because they're essentially doing an adaptation of the play, but then all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes is kind of, a one-to-one counterpart or sometimes used in ironic ways. Like the stuff going behind the scenes kind of almost mirrors in different ways to what's actually going on the play. So it was a really interesting and clever way to do an adaptation. The acting in this is phenomenal, and it kind of has to be because so they're on stage and they're doing that stupid community theater overacting that they do, and then as soon as they get off stage, boom, they're in serious mode because of all the stuff that's going on. I mean, Bruce mentioned the love triangle, but they're also it's not quite the Nazi Germany that we all are familiar with. It's like just before that, but everyone knows it's kind of getting there. What are they trying to do? Like escape the ghetto before there was a word for it, and I can't remember what it is. Before they start transporting the Jewish people to concentration camps. Like I get the sense that they don't know exactly that that's happening yet, but they know something bad's coming and they know they got to get out of there. And so there's all that going on behind the scenes. You have the love triangle that kind of exacerbates that. And so there's like a lot of anger and emotion going on behind the scenes. And then, oh, you're up, turn on the smile, get on the dance face. And it's like just the way they're able to switch back and forth so quick. There's a scene at the end. You know what scene I'm talking about. We'll leave it there. It's probably one of the most stressful, suspenseful scenes I've seen. That I think that scene rivals the opening of Inglourious Bastards.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and
wow, okay,
it's right there with it. And one of the things, and this is why I had to watch it again, because the opening one shot kind of threw me off because like she's going through the checkpoint like Bruce said. And then at one point, she's like, she's on the rickshaw. She jumps off, gets behind this wall. The Nazis come in, and then someone's trying to take her coat, and then she leaves. And one of the Nazis shooting her, and she's like running. She's running. Everyone, hide! Be quiet! Hide! And then all of a sudden, she's backstage of a theater. Like the geography didn't quite make sense to me. Like why the Nazis didn't keep chasing her. But then as I'm watching the movie. And then you see the back and forth between what's going on stage and what's going on backstage. This is not a narrative. It comes off as a regular narrative, but this is like a not quite dream logic and not quite straight narrative. There's there's a lot more going on to this than meets the eye because there's Transformers. Kidding, but. Yeah, so I had to watch it again, and I'm starting to pick up the ideas of what art or just love and happiness can do to bring you out of certain situations that you can't do anything about. And the importance of that, I don't know that and maybe I'm undervaluing art by saying this, but I don't know that putting on a play is equal to what the Jewish people had to endure during the Nazi reign. Like that seems a bridge too far. But also I might be reading a bit too much into it. But other than that, yeah, this has a lot going on for it. And that, like, just the straight filmmaking aspects of it is like next level. The acting's fantastic. The play is kind of lame, but that's kind of, community theater. That's kind of what but it doesn't work without the stuff. Yeah, sorry, I'm babbling way too much. This is
no, you're not.
Good stuff.
Again, the filmmaker is Rodrigo Cortés. You can check out our review on Find Your Film. I mean, our interview with Rodrigo Cortés on our Find Your Film podcast, or on YouTube or Deepest Stream. It's all over the place. And I guess Eric Holmes, you did some extra work, because towards the end of the interview, Bruce, what he did was he talked about one of his, I don't know if it's misbegotten children, his affection for one of his broken children, and that movie being Red Lights. And I think Eric Holmes, for our CinemAddicts recommendation segment, which will be later down in this episode, I think Eric is going to say a couple of words about Red Lights. We'll get to that in a second. So yeah. Congratulations, Eric. You're doing extra homework, which I told you not to. I told you. Only Bruce does the homework. You and I can. You and I should be on easy street. That's our little secret. Okay, don't do that again. Don't do that extra homework. You're doing too much work. But anyways, Love Gets a Room. Bruce, you get the final comment before we get to ratings.
Between me and Eric, we said a lot. I think you should try to get out. If you can see this in the theater, I say go for it. I think this would be awesome in the theater. If you can't, it's worth whatever they're going to charge to rent it on demand. I would consider buying this movie, honestly. And also I want to say, the last thing I'll say is the resurgence of a song from earlier in the movie that comes again over the closing credits is also gorgeous. And the closing credits are some of my favorite closing credits this year too. So
yes, the music is fantastic. I have it playing on my Spotify list. There's so many things to love about Love Gets a Room. I think Eric and Bruce really covered it. I'm so glad that they actually review the film, so I don't have to say a darn thing and just throw down my 5-star rating for Love Gets a Room. It's one of my favorite films this year, bar none. Clara Rugaard is a star. Rodrigo Cortés. I need to actually start watching Buried and Red Lights. I did see a movie he did in 2018 called Down a Dark Hall. I remember after interviewing him now, I might want to see that again, see if it works for me. It did work for me back in 2018. I might appreciate it a little bit more. Let's get to Eric Holmes' rating on Love Gets a Room. What are you giving it?
I really liked Birdman. Birdman was a great movie. And this kind of does a lot of similar stuff that Birdman does, but I think this is more clever and a lot more impactful in ways. Just like I said with Elemental Reimagine Wildfire, I don't know how they do this movie better. So you got to go 5 stars.
5 stars. Bruce, rain on our parade.
I will not. Rating? I'll just rain another 5. It's 5-star banger across the board.
5-star banger across the board, especially if all 3 of us say it's good. It's good. Okay? Don't argue with us. No, or maybe, no, I'm kidding. Argue with us if you want. Tell us what you think about Love Gets a Room. They're saying, basically, if it's in theaters and you have some extra money, go see it on theaters for the music, for the beautiful opening shot, and just for the overall story structure. So really great movie in theaters, but eventually when it's on demand in theater, when it's on demand, I'll make sure you guys get the links as far as where to purchase it in your various respective digital retailers. So that is Love Gets a Room. I think we're done with our feature reviews. Yes, we are. I think we're done with almost everything. Oh, let's get to our recommendations. Oh, you know what? Red Lights. Is it worth watching? Maybe worth watching a little bit more, Eric, because you loved Love Gets a Room. Did you appreciate it more? Because it seemed like Rodrigo was a little bit, not down on his movies. He felt a little bit of protectiveness regarding Red Lights.
The only other movie I seen of his was Buried, and with Ryan Reynolds. I love that movie.
Yes.
In fact, the fact that Love Gets a Room, the acting was so good. I was like, yeah, that tracks, because I don't think Ryan Reynolds has been better than what he did in Buried. It's just one guy in a box. We're gonna make a movie of it, and it's a nail biter. And then so I watched Love Gets a Room, but like that, I was like, oh, the weird thing is I didn't know the thing about Red Lights. I just was like, I did a movie called The Red Lights. It's playing on YouTube. Cool, I'll watch that. And this one was not quite as good as those two, but I still kind of appreciated it more than I liked it. Because it's about basically Cillian Murphy and Sigourney Weaver. They're like, they do kind of like the James Randi thing. James Randi will go to claim psychics and whatnot and, debunk them. And that's pretty much what they do. Where this movie loses me is the main bad guy is Robert De Niro plays this guy, Simon Silver. He's like the really good psychic. Ooh, yeah, Sigourney Weaver. You got all these, fly by night psychics, but Robert De Niro's the real deal. You don't want to go toe to toe with him. And I think one of the things is that like they blame him for murder pretty much because he also does like along with psychics. You also have faith healers. He does like kind of versions of that. And like a lot of people say, hey, I want to talk to my dead relative. What's so wrong with that? And actually, Cillian Murphy has a great response to that. He's like, I think it was his mom or someone had a lot of pain in their side. And they went to the psychic and they're like, oh, you need the essential oils or you need to do this, this, and this. And they're like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with them believing in that? They say, just do this. I'll put my hands on you this way. And then magically the pain goes away. And they're like, wow, yeah, the pain did go away. This person really works. And then what happened? Well, they died because they didn't get medical attention because they were spending so much time following this, charlatan. So that's their whole thing. But anyway, with the Robert De Niro character, like he's kind of like the really good version of this, which kind of threw me off because all, faith healers and psychics and all that, even the really good ones that you believe, oh, Eric, you didn't see what I saw. They're all tricks. They're all magic tricks. Robert De Niro's character shouldn't be like a super one. So like the main premise of the movie I thought was kind of stupid, but there's enough in there, kind of exposing how these different tricks work. So I kind of appreciate it for that. It was just the overall story and the premise was kind of stupid.
Again,
but I still enjoyed it. But I would say probably just go on YouTube and watch James Randi's stuff. Darren Brown does the exact same thing, and it's a lot more exciting. This movie's not bad. It's just I don't think what they're trying to say works for a thriller.
If you want to check out Red Lights on streaming, it's currently, as of this IMDb page says, you can watch it free on Freevee, and other people in the ensemble. I don't know. I'm kidding. Ensemble. Toby Jones, Craig Roberts from I guess I believe Submarines in it, and also Elizabeth Olsen and Jolie Richardson. So it has some good cast
Elizabeth
members.
Olsen plays woman.
Plays woman.
That's probably another problem. Like, so really all you need is Cillian Murphy, Sigourney Weaver, and Toby Jones, and of course Robert De Niro. Because Toby Jones, he's like the cynic that bad at his job.
Okay, so again, that's Red Lights, written and directed by Rodrigo Cortés. Watch it on Freevee. Tell us what you think. A lot of inspiration goes behind Love Gets a Room. It's so much inspiration that Bruce Purkey also decided to do a little bit of research and watch his own movie or spin-off or inspiration. Maybe, can you tell us about that, Bruce?
Yeah, I've never seen the original To Be or Not to Be. I'd seen the remake a long time ago that Mel Brooks did, and I knew it was a remake, but I never had gone around to actually watching To Be or Not to Be, and I thought, this seems like a perfect chance to watch To Be or Not to Be, because To Be or Not to Be, filmed in 1942, directed by Ernst Lubitsch, takes place in, guess where? Warsaw, Poland, in 1942. So what is this movie? I mean, most people know what this movie is, but I bet a lot of people younger than maybe 30 or so probably have never gone to watch this movie. Maybe my age never gone to watch this movie.
I've never seen it.
By the way, I think I watched this on Max. It's a lot of places. Stars Carole Lombard in her final role as Maria Tura, and then Jack Benny as Joseph Tura, and Robert Stack as the third part of the love triangle. Are you seeing something interesting here?
Oh, very
okay. Maria and Joseph are actors. They are famous actors in Poland. They have a troupe. This movie, okay, I can't describe what's so great about this movie without you watching it. You have to watch it. First of all, when you watch this movie, if you've seen Mel Brooks movies, if you watch this movie for probably about 20 or 30 minutes, and I'll credit Joseph Bridges for this part of the review because he kind of mentioned this too, you will be immediately tell that Mel Brooks loved this movie, because there's a type of banter and there's a type of subversive satire in here at the time that Hitler is still, all of this stuff is going on when this movie is getting made. And the satire on the Nazis in this movie is great. And it's wrapped up in a screwball romantic comedy where you basically have this young air cadet who is kind of trying to romance Jack Benny's character's wife. And in fact, that's where To Be or Not to Be comes. I'll tell you this really quick. If you don't know this, why it's called To Be or Not to Be is that she tells him, like, well, if you want to come see me in my dressing room, wait till my husband starts the soliloquy. And when he says to be or not to be, come and meet me, because it's going to take a while. So what'll happen is he'll start to be or not to be. And, you know, Robert Stack character will stand up, and immediately Jack Benny's like getting upset because he's watching this guy stand up and walk out on him in his soliloquy to go off and meet his wife. He doesn't know that's what the guy's doing. Anyway, there's a whole convoluted subplot. There's a whole bunch of misdirection. All the actors have to play Nazis and various people to try to basically become, you know, the counterintelligence at the time in Poland and try to keep all of these bad things from happening in a screwball comedy package. Even to the point that there's one point where they have an ongoing joke where they're calling a German, what do they call him? Concentration Camp Erhardt. And holy crap, that was in this. First of all, the fact that you can make that as a joke is crazy. But the fact that it's in here, when it was not even really a widely known thing, what concentration camps were, is kind of amazing. There is a ton of interesting stuff in here. I think it ages very, very well. It's funny. It's complex. It's screwball. It's amazing performances. I guess Carole Lombard, last little bit of trivia. The last little thing about this is it was her last role. She died before its release in a plane crash, and she was beloved. And apparently when they showed this on the screen, every time she came on screen, people were like cheering and applauding and stuff. And it was like this crazy, like, final swan song for her, because she is actually absolutely amazing in this movie. I say check it out. It's a no-brainer. This is a wonderful movie. And Greg, especially, if you haven't watched this movie, I just tell your mom you want to watch this movie and watch it with her, because I bet you she'll be on board if she hasn't seen it like
one of the
times.
reasons. Yeah, sorry, Bruce. One of the reasons why I haven't seen it is because the whole thing with the Carole Lombard tragedy. When I was a teenager, I saw her in a movie. This is a teenager, a long time ago. I saw her in a movie. I think it was called Made for Each Other with James Stewart, and I thought, my gosh, she is so talented. And to know that her career was cut. I still haven't seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So, and that's a Hitchcock film. So I just don't want to get there yet.
It, it will make you sad because she is luminous. She is so fantastic in this movie, but it's so good. It's so funny. And Jack Benny is amazing in this movie too. I just got to say, from the opening moments, it's so great.
Okay,
I can't describe it. It's so fantastic.
It'll
this
be
is definitely a classic for a reason, and some of those old movies just don't hit me. This hits me. It was great.
It'll be interesting to see if we ever saw, or like if you ever see it, Bruce, the remake, which is again Mel Brooks's remake of To Be or Not to Be. Wonder if that works at all, right? So be interesting to see.
It probably works okay, but I think part of the charm of this one is the fact that it literally is happening at the time. Like when you're satirizing somehow something that's existing in the moment, that's pretty incredible.
All right, Bruce, your rating on it's currently streaming on
classic, 5-star classic.
5-star classic. Okay, 5-star classic. It's not a 5-star classic for Eric Holmes, but what is your rating for Red Lights? I apologize, Eric Holmes.
Oh, I'll give it 3 stars. There was plenty good in it. There was some stuff that kind of bugged me, but overall, I think it's and again, this is kind of I think we're between Buried and Love Gets a Room. Rodrigo Cortés is kind of, at least for me now, he's on a different level because I know what he's capable of. So Red Lights just doesn't cut it. But if this was anyone else's movie, I'd probably be like, yeah, it's pretty good. But since I know what he's capable of, it's kind of I know what your 5-star movies look like. This one's 3 at best.
You know what? So are we done with recommendations, or do you guys want to wrap up with recommendations or go straight to the box movie? Bruce, you're going to be the executive to make the call. What do you think?
I got one really quick, short recommendation. Really quick.
Yeah, Greg Shizvasti?
Yes.
Sorry,
This is for you. Yes, watch this.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Joseph Bridges suggested this. It's a short. It's 30 minutes long. You can find it everywhere. It's from 1973, I do believe. It's a Spanish movie called La Cabina, which basically means the phone booth. It's fantastic. It's the proto Black Mirror that you've never seen. You need to watch this if you haven't watched it. It is so good. It basically just starts, I'll just give you the premise, and then I'll say, go watch this, people. Just go watch it. It starts out, nice little peaceful park somewhere in Spain. You just see a truck pull up to the park. 2 guys unload a phone booth, take it into the middle of the park, bolt it down, hook up the phone, make sure it works, prop the door open. A few minutes later, a guy and his little kid walk by. The park is getting busy. The kid throws his ball in the phone booth. The dad goes, takes it out, takes the kid, tests him off to school. On the way back, the dad says, he thinks he's going to walk into the phone booth, goes into the phone booth, the door shuts behind him and won't open. And people start to gather. And I won't tell you what happens for the rest of 30 minutes, but this goes from slapstick kind of predicament comedy to apocalyptic. I'll just say that.
La Cabina, that's La Cabina's 30 minutes probably goes by very fast because you're wondering what the heck's going on. That kind of thing.
It's just amazing filmmaking too. It's fantastic. This is, I don't know who funded it. This is not low budget. This is not a little, it looks like a full-fledged movie. It's fantastic.
Okay, so that is La Cabina per the recommendation of Joseph Bridges. By the way, Joseph Bridges, I want to tell you right now, CinemAddicts Facebook group member, I am embarrassed every single day at myself. I look at myself in the mirror with all the wonderful movies you give to our group and you recommend. Sometimes I just don't comment on most of them because I am jealous with envy at your knowledge. Joseph Bridges, if you're listening to this podcast, how dare you fill us with such great cinematic treasures? I don't like it one bit. Do you like it at all, Eric Holmes?
I love it.
How dare you? La Cabina,
Joseph Bridges has given us some bangers. He's also given us what was that dog movie?
Oh God, I don't remember. It's like something goes to, I don't know. He picks really weird things sometimes. I'm like, you know how you.
And then there was that weird Power Rangers thing that wasn't Power Rangers.
Eric, you will do this. You'll pick movies. I'll be like, where the heck did Eric come up with this movie? But you're still like just touching the low toenail of Joseph Bridges because he'll come up with things like, I'm like, what the hell is that movie?
Yeah, my shit's mainstream compared to what Joseph Bridges.
Yeah, exactly. Family show. I'm kidding. It's not a family show. Explicit. So SHIT, Eric Holmes. You usually you clean it up with the interviews, but you know what? I think we need to use that E rating for something. So that SHIT will not be cut. I like that. I like that a lot.
I didn't even realize I said it.
See, it's just part of the lingo.
The S just slid right out of me.
And you see, Joseph Bridges, see what you're doing. All the S is sliding and right up and down the show. And let me tell you something, Joseph Bridges, you might be about 800 to 1 as far as movie scores compared to me. I'm the one, you're the 800. Okay, great recommendations. Talk to me when you watch this movie called Scream of Fear or Taste of Fear. That's a movie that I think is going to be amazing. I think Bruce would love it. I hope Eric loves it. I don't know if it's as great as Love Gets Room, but remember, Scream of Fear, Taste of Fear. Joseph Bridges, you need to get on it because like Bruce said, you have some amazing, impeccable taste. Let's see if you can find this movie and watch it and get back to us on what you think. Now, we're not going to wake up Sleeping Beauty. That is Eric Holmes' job. There's a movie, or is it a feature, or it's something called Wake Up Sleeping Beauty. It's directed by Sheila Omi, I believe. That interview that Eric Holmes did, it can be found on our Deepest Dream YouTube channel as well as deepestdream.com. I just put it up today. Tell us what this thing is about. Why were you so? I watched the interview, Eric. You really seem to love it.
Yeah. So real quick, this one I won't go too much into it because we kind of get into it in the interview, so you can watch the interview and kind of hear her take on it. It's very rough around the edges. This was shot during COVID. She mentions that she green screened all the actors, kind of set their eye line and had them all do their things individually. And you can tell this is just kind of written very well. And the setup of it is a woman is, having a baby shower. She's about to have a kid. And then, they go through monologues of her different people in her family. And they're like kind of just getting out everything that they feel inside. Like the mom's like, look, he's gay and I don't have a problem with that, but why can't you just keep it to yourself? Like just saying utterly horrible stuff. And then the main woman, she goes to sleep and then she has this little demon thing next to her and they're, kind of talking back and forth. It's kind of like it's been a while since I've seen it in, this sucks. I forget the name, the chess movie, Playing Chess with Death.
Never heard of
The
it.
Seventh Seal.
Yes, Seventh Seal. Jeez, I don't forget that.
I was gonna say Searching for Bobby Fischer. Look at me.
It's got that kind of flavor to it, where it's mostly just talking, but these people are like talking like they're not talking to each other. When they talk to each other, they just say random, "Hey, oh, how's today? Pretty good, blah blah blah." But then they go into their mind and they're like doing the monologues, and they say the stuff they really think. And then the woman hears all this and eventually goes back, and it just, yeah, I'll just leave it there. Watch it. It's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. Wake Up Sleeping Beauty. And again, very rough around the edges, but I think the writing's really solid. The acting's really good. And as I told Sheila Omi, this is like when I said the Confidential Informant should be remade, because they didn't do it right. It had so much potential, but they just missed the mark by a lot. This is more like a situation where it's like
it was
12 Angry Men.
Right.
I want to see people do 12 Angry Men, or just get different actors and see their different takes on it. Maybe rewrite it a little bit to update for the times as you go. But then I just think this is really great. And it is rough around the edges as it is, given the constraints of COVID when it was made. I think she did a really great job. And I also need to give props to the writer, Mastene Moghadam. Moghadam. I butchered that, but I didn't ask Sheila Omi how to pronounce her name. But anyway, yeah, go check it out. And if you want to know more, check out the interview, because Sheila Omi, she's pretty great, and it was a pretty great interview as well.
Here's the good news. Wake Up Sleeping Beauty is available on YouTube, and it's a legit YouTube. You can just watch it on YouTube. Yep. So I
asked her about that. I wasn't sure. She's like, nope, that's where it lives.
Okay, it lives on YouTube. We will provide the link for Wake Up Sleeping Beauty where you can get it. Also, regarding links, if one of the ways you can support us, not just the Patreon, if you purchase movies or anything via our Amazon links, I get all the money, and Bruce, Eric, and Anderson get nothing. Is that cool, Bruce? You get you don't want the pennies?
Heard. So you told me.
It's always been the rule.
It's always been the rule. No. All four of us will get profit. So support CinemAddicts. Shop on Amazon. There's links all over the show notes, and then our 2 websites, Deepest Dream and Find Your Film. So check those out. Now, Bruce, I'm going to give you the executive decision. I say I really want to see Mr. Death for next week, because I was too swamped with other movies to see. I wanted to actually review it with you. I can do that next week, because we usually this is kicking the can, what we did with Anderson Cowan.
Mr. Death one more week.
Yeah, because remember when Anderson Cowan used to be, whenever Anderson was here, he would have the Anderson box. Okay, so look,
we will kick Mr. Death one more week. Mr.
Yes.
Fred A. Leuchter gets to wait one more week, which
the rise and fall, because we kicked Fred A. Leuchter.
Yes, Mr. Death, and maybe, who knows? Maybe I don't know if Eric's seen Mr. Death as well. Maybe all 3 of us will talk about what's in the box at Mr. Death, the rise and fall of Fred A. Leuchter Jr. next week for Bruce. And so there's no jingling or jangling. I'm sorry, Peter Abeyta, you're gonna have to drop those profiteroles next week. Drop the profiteroles next week. So we're done. I think we're done. Are we done, Bruce? Eric, we're done with the show? Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Final thoughts, Anderson. We love you. Final thoughts, Eric. Eric, you start off.
I think I mentioned last week that I was on the middle class film class trivia thing.
Yes, you did great, right?
On Friday.
First place? What?
I was wrong. It comes out this Friday. So I believe my episode comes out this Friday. But
okay.
I really like the I was
very disappointed not to hear you win. I was like, wait, what?
I don't think I won.
I think he wins. I think he wins, Greg.
Oh wow.
There's a Pyrrhic victory of sorts. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh, Pyrrhic! Why? That's the first time we've ever used Pyrrhic in the very, very interesting stuff. Eric Holmes, can't wait to listen to that. Those are the Peter Abeyta and his guys, Tyler Noe and Joseph Navarro over at Middle Class Film Class. They do a really good job over there. And Anderson again, he will be popping. It's not a goodbye to Anderson Cowan. He will be popping in and out to promote Loaded for Bear, and also just selfishly provide some really good movie recommendations over here at CinemAddicts. As we do usually, as even during the weeks we kick the can on what's in the box. Bruce Purkey, final thoughts.
I just want to correct the record. I misspoke earlier, and I said the Seventh Seal was the one where they play with, chess with death, and obviously that's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Hey guys, with that, we'll see you next week here